We've got some really fascinating new numbers from Gallup about just how the two major political parties, how the base of those parties feels about a whole variety of issues. And the fact that over the past number of years, there's been a growing divide on basically all of those issues, but some a lot more than others. And the ones that are a lot more than others are kind of revealing in and of themselves. So let's go ahead and put this up on the screen from Gallup. They say here you've got changes in partisan gaps on selected issues. And let me just explain what you're looking at here for a minute, because I found this presentation a little bit confusing. But you have on the left side, it explains what the issue is. So federal government has too much power. Human activity is main cause of global warming. Completely or somewhat satisfied with K-12 education in US. Abortion should be legal under any circumstance. And they tested a whole lot more of these. But the ones that we show here are the issues where the divide is the largest. So federal government has too much power. That was the category where the divide was the absolute largest. Then global warming, then how you feel about K-12 education, then whether abortion should be legal under any circumstance. They say in this article that political polarization since 2003 has increased most significantly on issues related to federal government power, global warming, the environment, education, abortion, foreign trade, immigration, gun laws, the government's role in providing healthcare, and income tax fairness. They go on to say that polarization has remained more or less the same on certain moral issues and satisfaction with the state of race relations. Let's go ahead and put the next graph that we have up on the screen so you can visualize a number of these as well. So you can see here the graph between how Democrats feel about these issues and how Republicans feel about these issues. So you've got, pretty wide divide there between those who believe that government should ensure everyone has health care. The next one is about protecting the environment has priority over energy development. Very wide divide there too. Wide divide on gun laws, one wide divide on global warming. Another one on global warming, abortion. Federal government has too much power. That one is really interesting because you can see the way that basically, around 2010 with Obama and the rise of the Tea Party, Republican sentiment that the federal government has too much power really spikes. And Democrats have been going in the opposite direction. They've been, feeling less concerned about the federal government having too much power. And then you have a widening divide also on the government should do more to solve the nation's problems. I'll tell you, Saagar, the one of these that I actually found in some ways the most interesting was about foreign trade. Because I don't know if you caught this, but foreign trade is opportunity for economic growth. Back in 2003, Republicans and Democrats basically felt the same way about this. It was like 50-50. So 50% of Republicans were like, yes, foreign trade. 50% of Democrats were like, yes, foreign trade, roughly. Since that time, the Democratic number has actually skyrocketed. Democrats now, 74% of them say that foreign trade is an opportunity for economic growth. Republicans have more or less remained flat. It has ticked down a little bit, but they're now at 49%. That say that foreign trade is an opportunity for economic growth. And to be honest with you, it was sort of surprising to me. This was an issue I would have guessed that both parties became more skeptical of foreign trade. The Republicans became a little bit more skeptical of foreign trade, but the really, notable numbers here are how the Democratic numbers have just absolutely skyrocketed. And I can only attribute it, and a lot of these polarization numbers I just attribute to the way that Trump shapes so much of our politics. The way that partisan affiliation, trumps any sort of independent thinking in a lot of regards, like wherever the team is, that's where I'm going to go. And Democrats increasingly define their team as just being the opposite of wherever Trump is. And so if you look at a lot of these numbers, that's kind of the dynamic that you see unfolding, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's actually very unfortunate because you can actually see the split on foreign trade happen almost exactly around 2013. But there's also a big educational polarization element to this. I could tell you, you and I, we both came through econ programs in college. Any basic econ program in college, they're going to hammer something into your brain. They're like, trade is good, foreign trade is great. It's about net economic benefit. It's about this. And it's only until you start reading about the cost of so-called net benefit when the net benefit goes to China or Mexico Mexico or Canada or the EU or Japan. And then you're like, oh, well, actually, the cost on the side of the equation was us. And then the benefit was to the people over there and then a bunch of bankers here in the US. Now we're not talking in economic terms. We're talking a little bit more in human and political economic terms. That's part of the issue, I think, is a big one. Education polarization really has its fingers all over this. And, you know, you could actually really make sense. But same with culture. And in some ways you can understand. If you're a Democrat in 03, we just invaded Iraq. Of course the government has too much power. But then Obama takes over, you know, you start then, you know, a slight dip-ish, you know, I guess during the Trump years, you mostly agree with a lot of stuff that Biden is doing. You really weren't all that concerned about lockdowns or any of this stuff. These are things that you're mostly, you know, aligned with-ish. So a lot of it comes down to like the topics of the day. I wasn't surprised by that number. The trade number actually was, you know, probably the most troubling one to me. In terms of where the biggest difference in Republicans have, you can also see really what happened with Trump, the fact that the immigration number dramatically declined, almost 30%. And also the quote, great deal or quite a lot of confidence in police. That's not actually all that surprising. I was actually a little bit more heartened around where some of the things where it seems people have become much more personally libertarian. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So for example, like if you look at things like not only the gay marriage number, but if you really look at things like divorce being morally acceptable or, you know, people having children out of wedlock, all of that. No one's saying like these are necessarily good things like that, but the moral equation, the moral police, like the original kind of Christian cancel culture that was so prevalent in our politics from the 1970s really up until the 2010s, that is a basically dead consensus, which for somebody like me who grew up in the evangelical heart of Texas, I can't help but say it's a good thing. But it, you know, of course, that's going to dramatically change things in the way that all of our culture looks like and how people personally feel about certain things. I think that's very interesting.
It was fascinating to me, the places where things diverged. Those places tended to be issues that have been put at the center of our debate in recent years. You know, immigration, huge divergence. How you feel about the police, huge divergence. Climate action, huge divergence. The nature and role of the federal government, right, which is really very sort of meta conversation, huge divergence. But yeah, it was also fascinating to me the places where the trend moved in the same direction. So even on something like favor death penalty in cases of murder, for both parties, the trend was actually downward. There were fewer people who favored the death penalty in both parties. Now, there's still a wide split. 73% of Republicans still do favor the death penalty. It's 37% of Democrats, but it moved in the same direction. Marijuana should be legal. That was a big one. Trend moved definitely in the same direction. Democrats are at 83%. Republicans are now at a majority, 55%, think that marijuana should be legal, which makes it, you realize how insane it is that it's not legal yet, even with a Democrat in the White House, but I digress. But the trend moved in the same direction. Same-sex marriages should be legally valid, same direction. Having a baby outside of marriage, morally acceptable. Divorce, morally acceptable. Sex between unmarried couples, morally acceptable. Satisfied with state of race relations. The satisfaction with the state of race relations in both parties actually declined. So in 2003, Democrats were, it looks like at about 45%, somewhere around there. Republicans were actually maybe like 55%. And then today, Republicans have declined down 40%. Democrats have declined all the way down to 23% in terms of their state of race relation satisfaction. But again, both parties moving in the same direction. And here's another one that's interesting. Favorable opinion of Cuba. Democrats all the way up now at 49%. Republicans also trending in the same direction at 35%. So it is fascinating that while on the core issues that have been the subject of a lot of cable news debate and a lot of political struggle over these past number of years, you see these increasing divides. But let me give you one more where the trend is in the same direction. Government should ensure that everyone has health care. Democrats now all the way up at 85% that say, yes, the government should guarantee everyone has health care. Republicans have also jumped up since 2013. They're now at 30%. So over the past decade, that has also moved in the same direction. So It's fascinating to dig into these numbers. The one, like I said, that the immigration, that there is a huge divide, didn't surprise me. Police, gun laws, whatever, that didn't surprise me. The one that I was surprised by the numbers on foreign trade, because I thought even on the Democratic side, post-Obama, given the energy behind Bernie in 2016 and again in 2020, and his skepticism of these bad free trade deals, including NAFTA and including TPP, I would have thought the Democratic numbers would be more mixed, but nope, not at all.
Well, yeah, I think that's unfortunate. I mean, I think it also does come back to partisan breaks in terms of like base of the party. As it becomes more college educated, that's going to reflect. But that doesn't necessarily mean also the people who like do still vote Democrat who are working class. So there's still going to be some separation, I think, within that. But yeah, I mean, it certainly does inform a lot of what's going on today. So I thought we broke it down.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.